Howdy. Today I'm going to be presenting my biofuel project. My project is on ethanol. Ethanol is used as an additive in gasoline or sometimes as a fuel substitute. It's widely used because it's just better for the environment. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. It's usually made from starch or sugar plants like corn or sugarcane. So the two most common plants used for ethanol production are corn and sugarcane. Corn is pretty popular in the US and sugarcane is pretty popular in Brazil. So sugarcane is usually grown in more tropical areas. There needs to be a lot of rain, a lot of warmth, but basically they just kind of take the cuttings of some old sugarcane and they plant it, and it just kind of germinates and produces a primary shoot. Then they'd kind of sprout at the base of the plant, and each original seed cane develops canes, like more canes forming like a stool, and then you just chop it off and dry it so that it can be milled. With corn, however, they are planted usually in April or May, then they're harvested in the fall, but whenever it's harvested, you kind of want it to be dried out, golden brown, hard kernels, so that you can mill it better. How is ethanol produced? So first things first, the kernels of the corn are milled into a cornmeal. Then for liquefaction, the water is added and the mixture is heated up, which kind of breaks the long starch molecules into smaller pieces. Usually they'll use an enzyme called alpha amylase to kind of speed up this process. In saccharification, the broken down starch molecules are then broken down even more into glucose. Then for fermentation, we already have glucose in this kind of like water glucose mixture, and they add yeast, which causes fermentation. So once it's done fermenting, it creates ethanol. But it's not pure ethanol. So for the fifth step, distillation, you kind of need it to be more concentrated. So it's evaporated and condensed, which creates 95% pure ethanol. So then in dehydration, we take out that 5% water by straining it and dehydrating it, which creates 100% pure ethanol. So ethanol is pretty widely used, like it's always developing, but it's pretty widely used in most gas stations. It may not be 100% ethanol, but I think the closest thing you can get to 100% ethanol is E85, which is sold at like 4,000 gas stations around the country. But at pretty much every gas station, they sell E10, which is 10% ethanol and 90% gasoline, and E15. If you're looking to use E85, it's a little more difficult because your car has to be proper modified to do so. What's the impact of ethanol on the carbon footprint? So compared to gasoline, ethanol cuts greenhouse emissions by like 50%. An experiment done by the University of California showed that replacing E10 with E15, so even just like a little bit more ethanol, reduced particulate matter emissions by 18%, reduced hydrocarbon gas emissions by like 5 to 8%, reduced carbon monoxide emissions by 17%, and reduced nitrogen oxide emissions by 3%. A good example so you can see like the difference with ethanol is like the use of ethanol in gasoline in 2024 had the same effect of taking 12 million cars off the road for a whole year, eliminating emissions from 14 coal-fired power plants, and eliminating emissions from 313,000 round-trip flights from LA to New York City. So there's some economic impacts of ethanol. Mostly it makes gas cheaper because it's a lot cheaper to produce. It creates jobs for people. The only issue is that it kind of increases food prices since we're using those like starchy foods. So a lot of big companies will have infographics or advertising campaigns, kind of like biofuel companies, but government agencies like the U.S. Department of Energy also have websites that kind of explain to you why we use ethanol and how it helps the environment. Plan of action. So if I had to, make my own plan of action, if funding were not an obstacle, I would increase research on how we can make ethanol more efficiently. I would propose that we add E85 to every gas station and that we modify every car to be able to use it. So my current analysis of the situation, given the data I've analyzed, and my recommendation for the next steps. I think that the use of ethanol in the U.S. is increasing, which is really good for the environment and just for the people. I think as the higher ethanol blends increase, I think we should make more cars able to use higher ethanol blends and make these higher ethanol blends like 85 more available to the public. And these are my sources. Thank you so much.